All right, everyone, good afternoon. The meeting is now started. The meeting of the Public Safety Committee is now called to order. Today is Wednesday, March 5th, 2025. The time is 3:30 p.m. Can we please call the roll?
Councilmember Lee,
Present?
Councilmember Price, absent. Councilmember McCosker. Councilmember Soto Martinez.
Here.
Councilmember Park, absent. 3 members present and a quorum, Mr. Chair.
All right, welcome to the Public Safety Committee, everyone. I'm Councilmember John Lee. I'm joined by my colleagues here. We will begin with public comment. Those that wish to speak can come to the podium. When I call your name, you will have 1 minute of general public comment and 1 minute each for items on the agenda for a maximum of 3 minutes. Josh, can you call the first name, please?
First name is Janet Gunter. Janet, you signed up for item number 3, so you have
Item number 3, yes.
1 minute for the item.
Okay. So it was fortuitous. I was able to speak to the fire department on the way in. It's fortuitous for me, not so much for them. I think what happens,
Can you come a little bit closer to the mic? Yeah.
I think what happened with the fires recently has really elevated this issue of Rancho LPG to the max, because basically what you're looking at with a disaster at that facility is a literal vaporization of everything within the first 2 miles and the decimations of the ports of LA and Long Beach. If you have your PowerPoints, which I provided, you'll have a lot of information in there, which shows a 53-year-old facility that was built in 1973 without building permits. It was ushered in under political favor of the Nixon administration. It was built for tanks to have a 25-year life. It's now been 53 years that it's been there. This facility has been acknowledged by Professor Bob Bay.
You're going to have 1 more minute for comment.
Thank you. He is the most renowned risk analysis person in the country. And he has said that this facility is the most ripe opportunity for disaster, not just in the state of California, but in the entire United States. So I hope that you will take a careful look at this and take, finally, the responsible action that we need to remediate it, and not just be reactionary, but be proactive in securing the safety of the citizens of the city of Los Angeles. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker is Noel Weiss. Signed up for items 3 and 6. You'll have 2 minutes for the item and 1 minute for general comment.
General public comment.
Yes, you have 3 minutes total.
Okay, good. No particular order. Gentlemen, thank you for your attendance, your ears, and hopefully your action. In terms of general public comment, you know, there's a general principle: motivation is the master of reason. Whatever you are motivated toward is what you're going to do. You'll find a way, assuming the motivation is there. Hope, I mean, what we're talking about, I think the old, John Lennon song, "Give Peace a Chance." I think we need to give redemption a chance. This thing has been around for so long. The danger has never been greater. We're talking about 2 12.5 million gallon tanks containing butane. 3 or 4 bullet holes in one or both of them could have a substantial impact on the port. People can say you could end up blowing up the port. Now, you had a situation with the Palisades fire. We're here really confronting the same situation, particularly as it relates, no disrespect intended, to the conflict of interest that abides the city attorney's office. You need independent counsel. You also need the idea that just like WP now has independent counsel, part needs independent counsel on this issue. But the specific issue with this motion, gentlemen, is, and council members, is the importance of mitigating the risk before there's a disaster, kind of like putting fire trucks on the streets before the fire. What we want to do is have in this motion simply a report from LAFD saying this is what it's going to cost to man every week, every month, at a minimum. LAFD comes in and inspects these tanks. It keeps the pressure on Plains Rancho just in case they decide, because again, they've been criminally convicted in other circumstances. Hello, Ms. Park, how are you? So we're in a circumstance here where we want the council to get a report out of LAFD that's comprehensive in that regard, and then have the council basically direct the port, if you will, to pay the dollars necessary so we can have mitigation while we're dealing with the broader issue. I think that's really important. And the report that we got back, God love the LAFD, but their report back was essentially, and they did respond to Councilmember McCosker's motion, which was a little bit, it didn't specifically ask for the number. But what they basically said is, hey, we had those positions approved in the budget, but the mayor never hired those people. Well, that's kind of akin to some of the dynamic that went on with the Palisades fire. If we learned anything from that, can we get the mayor to do her job and and appoint the people to those positions? So that issue will now become a little bit more prominent in the overall scheme of things. And therefore, this report, the suggestion is that you reject the report, but submit it to the full council for consideration so we can bring in the powers that be, and the full council can have a better understanding of what is going on, because there's been a lot of turnover in the last 10 or 20 years. So please, council, approve the motion with the directive, kind of like what we did before, although it ended up being received and filed. Reject, but direct the council to hear the whole thing, and then hopefully we can get a better hearing.
Thank you,
for
Speaker.
listening.
Thank you, Speaker. Armando Herman. 2 minutes for the items, 1 minute for general.
This pussy wants oversight for public safety measures with the fire department. In regards to the security service division, I want 3-inch Sergeant Duarte to report to the library effectively as after this meeting to protect the patrons from harassment from the fucking workplace people. And then you go into the other item here regarding the stock of fire hydrants. Well, maybe if people, as the Governor Newscomb pointed out, you need to return to your job. You need to start working out of your home and work in an office that the taxpayers pay to do your job, right, Mr. Lee? Not go to Vegas and get a free pussy escort bottle tap service. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm off topic. Let me stay on topic. So going back on this probation program on item number 1, why are we allowing kids to kick other kids' ass? Why do we let kids beat the fuck out of 15-year-olds?
Can you keep it to the items on the agenda,
I'm
please?
talking about the status of the cadet program, where I found out that LAPD children were getting fucked by policemen.
All right, can you move into public comment?
Okay. That's on topic, though. I'm still on LAPD cadet program. It's not my fault that you don't like faggots or queers, Mr. Lee, but when you were up there in Vegas, you weren't hiding anything for that bottle tap, weren't you?
Please
You
get
were
back on
hiding-
topic, Speaker.
I am on topic. I'm talking about that fucking drunk up there saying that I'm off topic.
All right, we're going to end up this time. All right, thank you, Mr. Herman.
Yeah, I'm
Next.
a non-agenda public comment, and I'm exercising my First Amendment on free speech, non-agenda. So if you want to fuck with my probation and fuck with my cadet program, I'm gonna tell you like it is, that you gotta stop fucking children. Even Hugo Rossiter over there knows the same thing. Yeah, when fat Hugo Rossiter tried to prosecute me for a TRO, I told the judge,
Okay, we're going to end this
Trump
public comment.
has balls.
Thank you,
45,
Mr. Herman.
47,
Keep his mic,
God
please.
bless Trump, and
Next
fuck
speaker.
you.
Next speaker, Goat Puppet. 2 minutes for the item, 1 for general comment.
So, number 1, you need to leave the kids alone. Because Mommy always tells us to stay away from the bad man. That's what Mommy Park tells us too. Why are kids going around with men that are not their fathers? Walking around grabbing them in certain places and making them do hazings and other shit like that. We don't need this fucking thing. We need to get out of the business of taking little boys. Let their fathers teach them how to fight, shoot weapons, and hunt, and beat the old lady. Well, okay, I mean, they can watch Daddy beat the old lady.
Right. Can you
like
keep
my
the items,
dad used to.
items on the agenda?
Well, that's why the That's why you have the cadet program, right? Isn't that right? Talking to you. Then we have number 6. I hope Tracy Park's listening to this because we got an LAFD snitch about this item. That's right. See, it looks like the LAFD was supposed to inspect all of Tracy Park's fire hydrants and write a report where the goddamn report should say what needs to be fixed. And they get paid, quote, a lot of money for these inspections, unquote. I don't know what that means. Does Hugo know what it means? No. Does Staffer B. John Lee with his $500 bottle service? No. No, of course not. And then the second report came back, and there was nothing on the list to repair. How the fuck can you go from 1,100 fire hydrants to 0 to be repaired? This is the question. Enough of the general comment. The biggest fraud in America is this fucking panel. You got a goddamn fool chairing it named Staffer B, identified by Agent Civilian of the FBI as Staffer B, in United States of America versus Mitchell Englander, that he's a little cocksucker sitting right by a convicted now felon. Now, how come he hasn't been indicted? And then we got another indictment.
Can you keep your comments to the items on the agenda?
They're talking about the fucking members of the
Yeah, one more warning.
committee.
You have
That's
one more
what I'm
warning.
talking about. I'm talking about where current fucking price is. How can you be on a public safety committee and be under indictment for 10 felonies by the DA and be paying the cops?
And let's end this
I don't
public comment and move on to the next
understand it.
speaker.
That's a conflict of interest. John Lee's a dirty little nigger. Always
can call him
remember
next speaker.
that.
Next speaker,
Dirty
Mike Greenspan. 3 minutes for the items and general comment.
Mike Greenspan. Yes, let's start out with the first issue. Oh, 3 minutes total. But the first issue, you got to look at this. Bureau of Police Commissioner's report to a response provided by the LAPD for an overview of the current status of the LAPD cadet program. Pull over, pull over. Well, was that an officer of the law who did that? No, that was a 15-year-old kid, a 15-year-old child who's a cadet who managed to get the vehicle. Why? Because the officer was giving it to them. You see, this is the officer that then Police Chief Charlie Beck arrested because he was fucking a 15-year-old. Isn't that wonderful? A 30-something guy fucking a 15-year-old and having a badge. Yeah, that sucks a dick like this one. That's what I think of it. Now, let's also go to other things because there's more than just 15-year-olds pulling over law-abiding citizens because somebody's fucking a cadet. Let's look at the library issue, the second thing, because the late John Walsh used to always talk about the library. And he said, I don't mind that homeless people are sleeping in the library, but playing cards, that bothered him. And, you know, maybe I don't agree with Walsh on everything. Maybe one day I'm actually going to go to that library, bring a few bucks with me, and play some cards, just like John Walsh talked about. After all, I can't afford to go to the card club. I don't make $275,000 a year like you guys, so I got to do it the poor man's way and go to the library and play some cards, just like John Walsh talked about. Yeah, you guys really, I don't know why you guys exist sometimes, except to take our money. Well, let me go to the public comment. Soberoff's yes bus. There he goes again, sounding like he did in his failed attempt for mayor. Look at his past record. Yes, he was on an oversight committee monitoring the expenditure of LAUSD school repair Prop BB bonds. Yes, the committee looked for sites to build new schools. Yes, the committee was interested in buying the Van Nuys Drive-In. Yes, Soberoff pulled out his real estate license and sold the property to Christian businessman, Englander supporter, and concerned citizen Bert Bachman. Yes, Bachman flipped the property at our expense, an ill-gotten gain. Yes, That is how Stevie Sobroff operates with his late buddy Bertie Bachman to line their pockets. You want to know what I think about this? It sucks a dick like this one. Yes, folks, that's who's going to be doing the repair in Palisades. And Palisades has a buddy of Sobroff's, Bob Brovler, who lunged at me when I'm playing his game.
Next speaker, Rabbi B. 3 minutes for the items and general comment.
Start with item number 6. Thank you, our committee members. So it has to be we have a big wildfire, then for you to realize your water reservoir is empty. It has to burn 1,000 homes for you to realize that your thousands of your fire hydrants are not working properly. It has to burn 1,000 homes for you to realize hundreds of fire truck needs mechanic, needs repair. So I just don't understand why you guys are working like this. Why you couldn't do your regular maintenance every month, every week, do your job correctly every single year. So all of those issues, when the next fire came, we were ready, everything we will be ready. But I don't understand right now, we are not ready for anything. Now let's move on to item number 2, Security Services Division and the library. I go to the Little Tokyo Library, and then I can inform our cell phone president that I never seen any security services LAPD officer in the library. And then one time, there's a physical assault in the Little Tokyo Library. And then from the moment I arrived until the moment I left the Little Tokyo Library, the security services officers still have not arrived. So that is your security services division. At the same time, there's a security services division security officer in the Little Tokyo Library, but she sit there watching on her cell phone. She sit there laughing, dancing, music, ignore everybody, and then that's what you call it a security services division. That's how you protect the library. I disagree with you, Mr. President. And I encourage you to visit the Little Tokyo Library. And then there are many more libraries. I want to visit you. Do you see any security services officer right there? And then talking about security services officer, I want to make sure that we have really good officer, the Sergeant Duarte right there. But one thing I wish that our Sergeant Duarte understand that is not only you protect the woman, but also you protect all gender. Not only you protect the biological woman, but you protect all the LGBT transgender women. Because I agree with our President Joseph Biden, because President Joe Biden said all women are women, regardless you are transgender or you are biological. And I remember that Officer Dion Joseph in the Central Division said, whatever you need me, hey, call me Saturday, call me Sunday. I'm just one call away. I wish our Security Services Division have that kind of officer to do above and beyond instead of just standing right there, like Sergeant Duarte.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. That concludes public comment.
All right, let's close public comment. Colleagues, I'd like to, unless there's any objection, I'd like to recommend that we take items 2 and 4 through 10 for consent with the following recommendations. Item number 2, concur with the Arts, Parks, Libraries, and Community Enrichment Committee report and amend recommendation 1 to remove the CLA and replace it with Security Services Division. Items 4 and 5, approve the CAO reports. Item 6, adopt the motion. Items 7 through 10, approve the Board of Fire Commissioners reports. Are there any objections to taking these items in consent? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, can you please call the vote?
Councilmember Lee,
Aye.
Councilmember Price, absent. Councilmember McCosker.
Yes.
Councilmember Soto Martinez,
Yes.
Councilmember Park. 4 ayes, these items are approved.
All right, can you please read item number 1 onto the record?
Item 1 is consideration of a Board of Police Commissioners report relative to a response provided by the Los Angeles Police Department for an overview of the current status of the LAPD Cadet Program, the Police Academy Magnet Schools Program, the Police Orientation Preparation Program, the Associated Community Officer Program, and related matters.
All right, thank you. If we can have a member from the LAPD come to report on this item.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Giselle Espinoza. I'm a commander with the Los Angeles Police Department, the Office of Operations, and I oversee the youth programs for our department. We are here today to provide an overview that was requested from us on September 24th from the City Council to give an overview of the mentioned programs. With me today is Deputy Chief Mark Reyna from Training Bureau, Sergeant Rosie Mejia from Youth Programs, and Sergeant Daniel Cotti for Youth Programs as well to answer any questions you may have. I want to start off by talking about the cadet program first. This presentation was prepared according to the criteria, the 5 criteria, items of criteria we were given to report on. The cadet program, formerly known as the Police Explorer Program, was first established in 1962 by then Police Chief William H. Parker. The program was created to motivate the city's youth to assume responsible positions in various careers, but particularly careers in law enforcement. The cadet program is a community-based program that aims to empower youth from the ages of 13 to 17 in order to maximize their personal and scholastic potential while emphasizing the importance of leadership, academic excellence, ethical decision-making, and community stewardship. The program right now consists of 26 cadet posts citywide, including the 21 divisions. Each one of our geographic divisions has a cadet post. We also have a cadet post in Central Traffic Division at Police Headquarters Facility, University of Southern California, and the University of Southern California, and the Los Angeles World Airport Police. Each of the 26 cadet posts is staffed by 2 youth service officers and supervised by 1 supervisor that is assigned to the Divisional Community Relations Office. And every month, each cadet post reports their activities to my office in a unified reporting process. In terms of the budget, the cadet program receives department funding in the form of officers' salaries that are assigned to the program, our department facilities and equipment. Additional funding is provided by donors, and that's just as they come up randomly. The Cadet Leadership Academy is offered twice a year in the spring and the fall, and the most recent class graduated 163 cadets on November 23rd of 2024. The current class started on March 1st, and that class was increased, and we started with 220 kids. Demographics for the cadets. We have 1,069 cadets in our department right now. There's 589 males, so that's 55%, and there's 479 females, that's 45%, and 1 non-binary. In terms of the demographic breakdown, we have 979 that are Hispanic, 17 that are African American, 34 that are Asian, 28 white, and 11 other. The other category includes Armenian, Middle Eastern, Native American, and East Indian. The requirements for the program, which was one of the criteria, the cadets must be between the ages of 13 and 17 years of age with a grade point average of 2.0. They must also maintain good moral character. Cadets are required to obtain medical examination as well as demonstrate a willingness to serve the community and participate in all the cadet activities. For purposes of members of the public that are listening, citizenship in the U.S. is not a requirement. We encourage and we recruit from every community in Los Angeles without any regard for legal status in the country. In terms of outreach, every cadet post is responsible for the recruitment for the respective posts. But to assist with those efforts, my office, the Youth Programs Unit, maintains social media platforms to inform the public and highlight the activities and the program in general. The cadets participate in various activities, and those are customized to provide content that is appropriate for age-appropriate viewership. The YSOs and the YPU, meaning the officers that oversee the program in my unit, regularly recruit at variety events and locations within the community, like at the annual LA Youth Expo, Coffee with a Cop, divisional open houses, holiday toy drive giveaways, And the officers also set up recruitment tables at local middle schools, high schools, and recreation centers and shopping malls, just to name a few. We have a very robust recruiting campaign, and it involves a lot of different sections, areas, businesses, places of worship throughout the city. Moving on to the Police Orientation Preparation Program, otherwise known as the POP program. The POP program was established in 2009 by former Los Angeles Unified School District Board President Roberta Weintraub, and it was supposed to be a one-time semester program for high school seniors interested in law enforcement. Today, the POP program offers students a 2-year associate degree, and the units that they earn are transferable to California State and University of California colleges. The program is in partnership with West Los Angeles Valley College and Los Angeles Valley College. I'm sorry, Los Angeles Valley College and West Los Angeles College. The LA Valley College program is administered out of the campus proper, and the program from West Los Angeles College is administered in our facility at the Amundsen Recruit Training Center. These programs are also supervised by 2 supervisors and police officer 3s who are on site to coordinate the activities and ensure for the safety of the students. In terms of the funding for these programs, the funding mostly comes from West Los Angeles College and Los Angeles Valley College. When there is a gap to be filled, sometimes the Los Angeles Police Academy Magnet section provides scholarships or grants for the program to close any gaps, but most of the funding comes from the colleges themselves. In terms of the demographics for the POP program, at ARTC we have 67 students, 40 are male and 27 are female. We have 59 Hispanic, 2 African American, 2 white, and there are 4 in the Asian category. At LA Valley College, there are 72 students, 47 are male and 25 are female. There are 66 Hispanic and 4 white, as well as 2 Asian. In terms of the requirements for the program, the applicants should have a high school diploma or equivalent with a serious interest in a career in law enforcement. They should have the ability to complete college level work, and when they do finish the program, they graduate at the they have a culmination of graduation at the Elysian Park Academy. In terms of the outreach, the officers engage in recruiting year-round. The majority of the POP students come from the PAMS, the Police Academy Magnet High School students, and the LAPD Cadet Program. Officers conduct recruitment visits at each of the 21 stations and at the academy to seek out cadets who are interested in the POP program. Last for me is the Police Academy Magnet School Program, also otherwise known as PAMS. The PAMS program is in partnership with the Los Angeles Unified School District, and it was established in 1996 by the same person, School Board President Roberta Weintraub. It is a college preparatory and career pathway that offers specialized academic and physical training for middle and high school students interested in public service careers. There are 10 LA Unified School District schools that we are at, 7 high schools and 3 middle schools. The PAMS program provides approximately 1,168 students with a unique opportunity to learn from experienced LAPD and Los Angeles School Police Department officers. Officers in the PAMS program are assigned to a school site and serve as the students' mentors and guiding them through the classroom instruction, leadership training, field trips, and various LAPD activities. The funding for that mostly comes from LA Unified School District. Everything that pertains to the PAMS program is in collaboration with them. And they obtain uniforms and school supplies and activities, and all that is paid for by LA Unified School District. So an overview of the number and demographics of our PAMS program is there are 728 males, that's 60%, 440 females, that's 40%, for a total of 1,168 students. 1,057 are Hispanic, 36 are African American, 49 are white, 20 are Asian, and 6 are other. I also have the breakdown of demographics per school, but that would probably be a little lengthy. In terms of the outreach, The PAM school site is responsible for recruiting students. The school site officers and the LAUSD coordinators actively engage in various recruitment activities, including hosting open events at their schools, attending magnet recruiting fairs, and conducting outreach visits to local schools. And all their efforts are aimed to inform potential students and their families about the program and encourage them to enroll. The PAMS program runs its own social media campaign and recruitment through LA Unified School District. So we will be available for questions, but now Deputy Chief Mark Reyna is going to talk about the Associate Community Officer Program, otherwise known as the ACOP program. And that is a program that we use to bridge the gap between when students age out of the cadet program and we want them to stay involved before they consider or not a career in law enforcement and they turn 21.
Thank you. Good afternoon. I'd like to talk about the ACOP program. This program was created in 2017. Since then, 110 individuals have gone through our program. Your report currently says there's 29 that were submitted. It's actually 19, and I'll explain what's going on with that. There's 19 active associate community officers in the program. The breakdown of the demographics currently are 11 males, of which are 10 Hispanics and 1 Pacific Islander and 8 females. And all 8 are Hispanic. The difference in the 10, we've hired 5 since then. So 5 of those 10 in the discrepancy have been hired. So now we're at 37 out of the total of 110 in the program since inception have been hired, and 54 have resigned or been terminated from the program overall. We feel that the program was a wonderful way, like Commander Espinosa said, to bridge that gap between cadets aging out at 18 and those that are interested in going into the field of law enforcement. One of the issues that we found in the ACOP program, however, was prior to August of 2022, the background investigations for those who go into ACOP, because it is a paid position, they are working in the police stations, would have to go through a full peace officer standards and training post background, which was kind of bogging down that system. For a short period of time, Personnel Department outsourced the background investigations to an outside firm at an approximate cost of $1,500 per background investigation. In April of 2024, Personnel Department concluded that they didn't have the budget to do those backgrounds any longer, and then shortly thereafter determined that they could do a limited background, which would suffice. However, in May of 2024, Personnel Department halted the hiring of any individuals that were in the ACOP program in that process. At that time, there was actually 12 applicants who were in the hiring process, and that was frozen, and we've not hired anyone since May of 2024 in this program. This is due to the budget issues with the city and the city's hiring freeze. All emphasis of the police department for civilian positions has been on full-time salary positions within the police department and not necessarily on the ACOP program. So the ACOP program, in a sense, is frozen at the moment right now. What we're looking at while this is, in a sense, being frozen, we found that there were some issues with the program that we felt that we could maybe address with personnel department and with the city to change the overall posting of that program. One of them being, for example, we want to modify that to be this, the background investigation be very limited because it's just a civilian position. Before, again, it was the post standard and then a very lengthy background. So we wanted to very limited civilian background investigation for any other civilian position that we would hire for the police department. We would also like to modify the requirements that would not force the ACO to resign if they did not want to become a police officer. What we found is, as we're going through this was again, an avenue, a vehicle to have individuals go into the law enforcement field. But as they spend time with officers, or they spend time in police stations, some of them may have had a career change. I don't want to go law enforcement, but maybe I want to work for the police department. The program doesn't allow for that. So if they don't apply to be a law enforcement officer at 20 and a half, they have to leave the program. So we'd like to maybe modify those requirements to allow them to go into other fields within the police department. or with the city, so we don't lose them to another entity somewhere else. Also, we'd like to see when they're on the job, if we can put them in to work with our detention officers, our communication operators, things like that, instead of working with the officers at the stations, the clerical staff at the stations, to give them an opportunity to see other parts of the police department in case they don't want to become a law enforcement officer when they hit that mark and that age, and they can do something else for our police department. And also, we'd like to see if we can, it's currently under our recruitment and employment division, which is under training bureau. There's been discussion of possibly moving that out and putting this program under Commander Espinosa's review, or also under our Community Safety Partnership Bureau, in a way to expand out to our community and our youth to bring them into this program should the hiring begin again. So there are some ideas that we think we can enhance this program and allow for better opportunities for our youth in the community. That'll take some time to do, so a little bit of paper we're working on, but hopefully we can get that done, and hopefully we can get the go-ahead to hire again in the ECOP program, because it is a wonderful program for our youth. Thank you.
We're available for questions if there's any.
So this might be for Captain. How long has the ACOP program been going on?
Since 2017.
2017. And what do we say on average is percentage of people who go on to having a career in the LAPD as when they're part of the ACOP?
So currently it's 33% of the 110. So since the inception of the program, there's been 110 individuals that have been hired as an ACOP, and 37 of those have been hired by the department. 54 have resigned or been terminated from the program, and we currently have 19 that are active, but 33% of the 110 have been hired onto the police department.
Gotcha. And Commander, how many total, with all the different youth programs, would you say we have? I mean, I was trying to keep the math, but is it around 2,000?
Yes.
Just somewhere in that neighborhood?
Somewhere in that neighborhood, yeah. Actually over 2,000.
Okay, so out of those programs, is there, other than the ACOP program, is there, I assume if they want to be a part of one of these programs, not everybody, they might be just building their resume for college, but I assume a lot of them want to be in law enforcement. So what are we doing to try to, I know the ACOP program, but when I see the numbers of the ACOP program, I think it said currently like 29.
Yes.
I mean, that's 2,000 people that work, part of our cadet program, part of programs at high schools. What are we doing to sort of keep them connected to us? And is the ACOP program, in your mind, in your sort of recommendation, is the ACOP program that way? Would that be a successful way to then transition more of those people to try to make sure that we can boost up our recruitment?
ACOP is a great program. However, when it was funded by the city, it maxes out at 50 at a time that can be hired in a sense. So with hundreds of youth that are in our cadet programs and the POPs and the PAMs, and depending on their age and when they're coming out of that, even if we were able to hire in the ACOP program and we had a long line of people that are applying for this, it's a paid position to do this, we can only max out 50 at a time.
So it's just an annual budget thing.
Correct.
So as in your opinions, would this, we know that it's tough, hiring. We know that it's a seller's market out there, that all law enforcement agencies are hiring right now, and we're struggling to bring people on. Do you, in you or in Commander's mind, do you think that is a good investment for us to then transition these youth into being police officers?
Yes. To go back to your question previously, what do you do with an individual in the cadet program who times out at 18,
right?
Who's not in any other program and may not he can't go in the ACOP program, and she can't go in now. What are they doing between 18 and 21, and how do we keep them interested? How do we, volunteering at the stations, things like that? It's very limited in what we can do to keep that age group between 18 and 21 interested, especially if they're in college and they want to graduate from college, and if they're in a 4-year program and graduate hopefully when they're 22. How do we do that? So an ACOP program could help that, especially if we could expand that out and we could hire more, especially to not only keep them interested, keep them around law enforcement, but as I said earlier, if they don't go into to be a police officer, but at least be clerical staff and have that opportunity to keep them interested, we'd have to expand it past 50 and have to have the budget to do that.
If you can provide a report to our offices that show sort of like the expansion of this program, what are jobs that we currently need done, whether they're by civilians or foreign police officers that, for whatever reason, we could allow these ACOP. What can we do to expand that program so that it would just make financial sense for us, right? That we know civilians filling positions for officers to allow officers to get back on the streets, whether it's that or it's just cost efficient to keep them. If we're running at somewhere 30 to 40% success rate of ACOPs becoming officers, if we can continue that, if that's a number that makes sense for us, then we spend a lot of money on recruiting, and we have these kids that obviously want to be part of the best law enforcement in the country. So we should try to take advantage of that. So if you can report to us on different things, how we can expand this program, what can they do so that we can also then, run it up the chain to make sure that, this body, the council, is comfortable with, 18 to 20-year-olds, running those things. But, we look to you for your recommendations on that. If that's what we have to do, I think that would be a good, bang for our buck.
Absolutely, especially with the shortage we have in civilian staffing for our department. And when they're in the stations, they are doing clerical work. They are working with clerical staff and officers and supervisors. And not only are they learning about police work in the police department, but they are learning about paperwork and administrative processes there. So of course, they could help in those situations where there are gaps in that civilian staffing. Sure, absolutely. We could report back on that.
Okay, I mean, if it's possible, I mean, it's we're coming up on budget season, so if you can try your best to try to figure out what that looks like, so we can actually then maybe take the next steps to increase that program. And what does that look like? Again, if we're looking to you, if you think that is a good use of this, how does the school become a magnet program? Does LAUSD just apply? I mean, I'm sure we have a limited amount of officers that.
What was your question, sir?
Just how do you become one of the, I forgot what it was, one of the magnet programs?
Yes, it's through the school. The school has a portal. They open it up in November and students apply and the school picks the students and then they're in the program. But the other thing that I want to add about, I think it's definitely worth looking into expanding the ACOP program. But one of the things that we have found with the youth in the cadet programs and the Academy Magnet programs is that these kids are so disciplined and they receive so much information about what is out there for them that there are quite a few that are going into trade schools. So they're shooting for the stars. They're aiming very high. So I'm hopeful that if there was an opportunity for ACOP program, that they would take advantage of that. The ones that want to be police officers, based on my experience, they want to go to college first, or they're going to the POP program so that they can get their associates and then be police officers. But I would say that 99% of these kids are on a really, really solid track. There may have been one or two in the hundreds that I've seen at inspections and their graduations that have said, well, I'm still kind of thinking about it. They're all like super solid children. They're great. They're brilliant. Some of the trade careers that they come up with, I've never even heard of. One of the popular ones is underwater welding, because there's a lot of money to be made. So I do believe that it's worth looking at without taking from that trajectory where these kids are going. I think they're aiming really high and they're doing everything they can to get there. So
Yeah, I mean, just speaking just on personal experience with my cadets at Devonshire, I mean,
Yes.
they are the best of the best of the kids that are in our high schools, and so
yeah,
take
so
advantage.
we call it the double-edged sword because we really want them to consider law enforcement,
Mhm.
but they're very smart. They're a lot smarter and independent than I ever was when I was that age. So a lot of them say, yes, I want law enforcement, but I will only do CHP. Okay, you know, for whatever the reasons are, or no, I'm going to go to the military. There's a lot that are going to the military as well. And there's a lot that want to come on the job, but they're going to do these other things. They have a plan.
Well, maybe
before
if we
they get-
expand this program, maybe that opportunity is there for them. They might,
Yeah.
you know, they might take that. So, sorry, colleagues, is there anybody, Councilman Price?
This is a important component of our of our program, our recruiting our young people. And you identified about 4 or 5 different programs here. Just curious about the ACOP program. Uh, the report suggests that the funds were not available to outsource the background investigations, so the investigations stopped. So does that mean there's no recruiting to this program anymore, or what does that mean?
They kind of, the backgrounds, in a sense, stopped at the same time that the program stopped. So there's discussion that if the program was to be allowed to continue today, who would do those backgrounds. So we've worked with personnel department to show that the background investigators that are assigned to personnel department that do the full post background for officers, that wouldn't be needed, more of a civilian staff background. We do have our department civilian background investigators, very limited. I believe there's only 3 or 4 of them that do the backgrounds for all civilian hires for the LAPD. So we'd probably have to increase their numbers to be allowed to do that, but most likely would come back on LAPD to do their own background the same way they do it for any other civilian staff member they hire for LAPD. Because what will happen is if they get a limited background when they're 18 and they go into the ACOP program, and at 20 and a half they decide to apply for LAPD, they have to go through the full background again, regardless of them working for the police department or not. So why don't we limit it on the front end, because it's an administrative position,
Right.
clerical position, and they can do that before years later. So.
Well, recruiting seems to be an issue for all of our programs. Do we have any specialized recruiting efforts, or is it kind of one size fits all, and whoever comes in, or?
Well, I can speak for ACOP. Our recruitment officers that are recruiting for LAPD were tasked with also recruiting for the ACOP program. So honestly, I don't think it was a very robust program, because they're really looking for those officers when they're out recruiting. And that's why one of those recommendations is to maybe move this program from a recruitment section that's looking for officers under Community Safety Partnership Bureau, under Office of Operations, with our community relations sections that are out there working with community groups and different organizations.
What would it take to move that? Is that something the chief could do? Is something the council has to do, or what?
That would be up for the chief to make that decision.
Has that been recommended to him yet?
It's been discussed, but there hasn't been much discussion since then, since our last time we met with the chief.
Which was when? When did you discuss that with the chief last?
I'm sorry?
When did you discuss that with the chief last?
That was when we presented before Police Commission these programs, probably maybe 6 weeks ago, 8 weeks ago. And I know Chief McDonald's been rather busy, and again, the program is on a hiring freeze right now.
Right.
So
right.
I don't know if it's
So is there some pending? Is there some action pending then, or how did the chief leave it with you?
Oh, it was just a small discussion about what we presented there.
Receive and file. Huh?
Yeah. Okay. So it's probably something we'd have to sit down and go into further detail with him and just present our recommendations. Obviously, the chief makes a decision on that, but again, with the program being on a hiring freeze, I don't know it's necessarily a priority to make these moves yet. So.
All right. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
So I just wanted to dovetail back to a couple of remarks that our committee chair made. I think throughput and efficiency are really important concepts in these investments that we're making, which really are in youth and workforce development. So are these spread across multiple departments and divisions within LAPD? And just sort of posing the question, wouldn't it make sense to house them all together and then use them as sort of continuous steps in our efforts?
My opinion, all youth programs should be together. That's just my opinion. Obviously, this is up to the chief of police to make that decision. I'm sorry. I was saying that just my personal opinion, based on what I see with the ACOP program under recruitment and what we see with the youth programs under Commander Espinosa's team, yes, it would make sense to bring them together and put them in the right spot where we're getting the most attention out there and the most bang for our buck in a sense of dealing with community groups and community members and youth to get them in the program. But again, it's up to the chief of police.
But it's just such great opportunities and investments. I'd love to just have that ability to retain as much of them and graduate them through from one program to the next, and keeping that 18 to 21-year-old demographic engaged, I think is really important. So thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chair. Thank you so much for the reports. This is actually I'm finding this very fascinating because when I was on personnel and audits and hiring, there was a lot of discussion about hiring and how do we increase the numbers, which I know Councilmember McCosker has made this a goal. And I remember getting a report about the kind of applicants we were getting, which is very different from the way you're describing these young folks. And I did not expect for you to, well, for the report, for folks to be like, these folks are brilliant and they're like, want to be, they're going to college and things like that. So I think part of the challenge is, I don't know what the challenge is, but on both sides, like we're not achieving, this body is not achieving either or, like with both pools of applicants. But I'm curious, so is that, when you say 99% don't want to move on, that's from the 2,000 people that or you're saying from the
No, I meant
ACOP?
99% of the kids that I've spoken to at their inspections or graduations, they have very significant plans for education and for their future careers.
So even though, because the barriers seem pretty low to me, it's like 2.0 GPA, like it's not difficult to get in, but even then, it's sounds like the kind of folks that are attracted to these programs are just very self-motivated, and obviously, if they're in this program, they're going to learn even more discipline and exercise and a bunch of other things.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So the 2.0, we have discussed raising it in the past, and there's been pros and cons to that. The reason it's at 2.0 is to get as many students as we possibly can that we believe are going to succeed in the program. Their GPAs, for the most part, and my sergeant here can attest to that, will go up anyway. And when I say that these kids have big dreams and big plans and big thoughts, we have about 80 of them right now in a financial literacy course at the University of Southern California, funded by them and by another organization. They invited them to go and learn about interest rates, about principal, about monthly payments, and things like that. So they're being exposed to things that are above and beyond what we would expect because the opportunities present themselves and we jump on those opportunities. A lot of these kids are seniors, so they will be able to put that in their resume for applications to colleges and universities, that they are part of the USC program for financial literacy. They're like honorary students there. They get a little USC ID. They're in the lecture halls at USC. They can walk around campus as if they're part of that family, and that's by design. So yeah, you're right. They do have a lot of opportunity.
Yeah.
And do you want to just expand on that?
Yeah, just to follow up on what Commander Espinoza said, the program has a lot of the kids are, I'll be honest with you, they get put in the program because their parents want them there. The kids don't necessarily always want to start off in the program. However, once they're in the program, they see the structure that they've never had before, and they get that mentorship from the officers, and they actually want to go after they've already been in the program for some time. And they do, like Commander Espinoza said, we have the financial literacy program through USC, which we just started, and we will have the third. It's a 10-session program, and we just finished the second session. And to be honest with you, that program has exceeded my expectations. The professor that's putting on the class is the way he interacts with the students is fantastic. He speaks to them at that level. So they may start with a 2.0 GPA, but once they're in the program for a while, their grades definitely increase, and they are exposed to other students, other cadets who also have those high aspirations and want to go on to college or want to go into the military, and they all have some kind of plan as to what they want to do when they finish high school.
Hmm. So if they are not, well, okay, if we look at this program as a pipeline to a career in the LAPD, it looks like there's much to be improved. But are we thinking about maybe plugging them into, I mean, the unarmed model of crisis response is expanding right now. That's a different kind of skill set, right? That's a more de-escalation. That's a little more knowledge of mental health. You know, the calls that they're coding. Has there been any sort of and I hope that continues to expand, right? We went from 3 stations to 6, and we got another, 18, 19 to go. I hope we get to that point. Is there any sort of idea of if we're putting all this money into training these young kids, maybe put them into that model, or maybe put them into, I know we don't have a need in fire, but in fire, or putting them into, like, sending them to the work source center where they can learn, like, how to, learn a career in the trades. Like, it seems like if we're having all these kids in our infrastructure, let's at least find a place where they want to be, and maybe it's in those other different models that we're expanding in the city. Has there been any thoughts about that?
Yeah, I think what she was saying is at the onset was, they were apprehensive about the program, and I say that because I have a niece that just started in the March 1 Academy, and she was a little apprehensive because she thought there were too many rules and things like that, and she ended up trying it. She loved it. She's going to stay in the program. Once they get to the program, though, they love the program. They don't leave. So I think that they are. I think we have the correct infrastructure for them to thrive and academically, socially, and with coming up with their plans for the future. We can definitely look at something in the long term when they reach the age for the unarmed model of crisis response. That's something we can entertain. Obviously, there has to be input from the parents, and we're very cautious when these kids are under our care, that we don't overstep our boundaries, that we're communicating with the parents about what our plans are. We don't just arbitrarily get to decide like
Right.
what we're going to have them do.
And just, this is my last line of questioning, Mr. Chair. Every year, how many people age out every year from all the programs that we have?
From the cadet program?
Yeah.
Well, that would be the only one because the other ones are
Well, the cadet
camp.
and the bless you.
The
Just a rough estimate. I'm just my yeah.
Just a rough estimate, I would say we probably age out about 300 or so a year. However, they get replaced, well, not replaced, but
Sure, sure.
new youth join the
Yeah.
program, so the numbers stay roughly the same. So towards the end of the school year, our numbers may dip a little bit, just
Sure.
because they usually towards the end of the school years when they age out,
Sure.
and then our numbers may go up a little bit at the beginning of the school year.
Right. Because I think if we adjust our perspective on what is a successful program, it's rather than just view it through how many of them get a career in the LAPD. It's like, of the 300, how many of them join the city family? I think that could be another perspective, but I think it just needs to readjust because it's. I like the investment. I mean, we should be investing in our youth, but like, how do we continue to invest in the future past 18? And I think if we change that perspective, I think we can look at the numbers and feel better about ourselves.
Yeah, I agree. We can continue to look at that, but as I mentioned before, over 90% of them are going to college. So
90%. I mean, that's phenomenal. I mean,
think it's amazing.
that's phenomenal.
I love
mean,
the program, and these guys do a great job. So.
or come intern at at our offices, something like it's. Anyways, I'm just sort of thinking about how much we invest, which is great, but then how do we
We
keep
have
that
had some
talent? How do we
council
keep those
districts
skills? Yeah.
that have hired them.
Okay, all right, that's all I have. Thank you so much. It was a very enlightening report. Thanks.
Thank you, sir.
Commander, if we are graduating, if 90% of our kids that are going through our programs are going to college, if LAPD can think outside the box. I mean, there were intern programs when I was going through school that paid for part of. I know college tuitions are ridiculous right now, but we have to start thinking, what do we invest in? What are the money that for recruitment? If it's a program partnership with Cal State programs, something that we can partner with the cities so that when they come out, we either have a job for them or they have to give us time, you know, like you do at one of the academies, you know, that you have to serve. I don't know what the laws and the rules would be, but if we can take a look at
We will.
anything, because these kids, you know, I know,
They're
they're
gold.
they're the best of the best here, and they're the people we want to be police officers in our city. So, well, okay, well, we appreciate the presentation, and we look forward to any future reports on this.
Thank you, sir.
All right.
Thank you, committee.
So I believe we are going to note and file this report. Can I have a second on that? Second. Thank you. Can we call the roll on this item?
Councilmember Lee,
Aye.
Councilmember Price.
Aye.
Councilmember McCosker,
Yes.
Councilmember Soto Martinez.
Yes.
Councilmember Park. Yes. 5 ayes. This item will be noted and filed.
All right. Can you please read item number 3 into the record?
Item 3 is consideration of a Los Angeles Fire Department report relative to the inspection, oversight, public safety measures, and resource needs for the Rancho LPG facility located in San Pedro.
All right. We're going to ask LAFD to present their report, but Mr. McCosker, I'd love to turn it over to you after they are done with
Thank
their
you.
report.
Thank
Go
you,
ahead.
The acoustics are really, Mr. Chair, if I
Yeah,
may, the
yeah.
acoustics are really tough in this room. The acoustics are difficult.
Yes, sir.
If you could speak right into the mic and very deliberatively, it is difficult for me anyway to hear every word. Maybe for
Me
others.
too.
Yes, sir. So good afternoon, committee chair and council members. First, I have to apologize. I saw this lingering cough from the Palisades, so if I start coughing, I apologize. But so good afternoon. My name is Captain Cody Weiruder with the Los Angeles City Fire Department. I'm assigned to the CUPA section, which is the Certified Unified Program Agency of our Fire Prevention and Public Safety Bureau. I appreciate the opportunity here today to provide an overview of our regulatory oversight and enforcement programs, specifically as they relate to the Rancho LPG facility at 2110 North Gaffey Street in San Pedro. Also today joining me is one of our CUPA hazardous materials supervisors, Min Lee. She oversees the high-risk facilities under the California Accidental Release Prevention Program, CalARP, ensuring risk management, compliance, and hazardous chemical safety protocols. Additionally, we also have the Fire Prevention Bureau's Harbor, Industrial, and Commercial Inspection Unit Commander, Captain Jason O'Neill, which enforces fire prevention standards for hazardous materials facilities such as this. We also have 2 fire inspectors, Stephen Hamilton and Susan Monzo, here to hopefully be able to answer any questions that do arise. The Los Angeles Fire Department CUPA is one of 81 CUPAs in California. It's a state-regulated program, and it's responsible for regulating hazardous materials and hazardous waste programs to protect public health, worker safety, and the environment. CUPA's mission is to ensure compliance and minimize risk of hazardous materials release and hold facilities accountable through enforcement activities. Facilities such as the Rancho LPG fall under multiple regulatory frameworks, including the following. I apologize.
It's all right. Take your time. Sorry.
CalARP, which is the California Accidental Release Prevention Program. This is designed to minimize the risk of hazardous material releases by requiring facilities to develop and maintain a risk management plan. Also, the Hazardous Materials Business Plan Program, ensuring facilities disclose the type, quantity, and storage conditions of hazardous materials to assist first responders and protect public health. And then lastly, the Los Angeles Fire Code. Now, not regulated by CUPA because we are a state program, but equally as important, the LA City Fire Department's Fire Prevention Bureau enforces this code for facilities such as this, and it goes under the LA City Fire Code. Both CUPA and the Harbor Industrial Commercial Unit inspection personnel are model examples of what the public safety leaders should be. They continue to set the bar for state agencies, leading the state in enforcement activities by initiating and completing more formal enforcement actions
than any other Coupa in California. I think it's worth mentioning our Coupa, the LAFDs, the city, recently went through an extensive Cal EPA evaluation. The final end rating, without going too farther into it, is we exceed the normal rating for 81 different Coupas. That's a testament to recognize and reflect the leadership in hazard material enforcement, compliance, and emergency response preparedness. Specifically, the Rancho LPG is regulated under 3 strict programs as part of the regulatory obligations that they must adhere to. Under CalARP, Rancho LPG must maintain an up-to-date risk management plan, or RMP, ensuring compliance with process safety and accidental prevention measures. Under the HMBP program, Rancho LPG submits chemical inventory and emergency response plans to help first responders mitigate potential incidents. Now, under the fire code, inspections are conducted to enforce flammable and combustible material storage, emergency response access, and life safety compliance. Coupa and our counterparts at the Industrial Commercial Unit are in heavy coordination to ensure that we have full compliance. We take it very seriously, and we pride ourselves on being the fact that we've been that state leader for so long. In the realm of additional staffing, questions or review that comes up, as an update, in an effort to continue providing the level of service that the public deserves and to support our mission, the process safety engineers, 2 positions, their new classifications, they're in the process of being approved as an exempt position in the city. The last time we presented these 2 critical positions, we're still frozen awaiting CAO approval to unfreeze them and move on to the next step. Finally, we're here today to answer any questions regarding the motion or report related to the Rancho LPG facility within our scope. Meaning, we want to be able to answer any question that comes up for these regulated programs to the best of our ability and help to better understand or give any kind of more insight and be able to answer any of the questions you may have. Our team is committed to ensuring compliance, transparency, and public safety. Thank you. I'm happy to answer any questions you may have. And when I say me, I mean my esteemed colleagues.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thanks very much for being here. Really appreciate it. Just members, just for the record, I want to remind you that we have a presentation, 20 slides that were presented to us by the San Pedro Peninsula Homeowners United. This is material that was submitted to Triple T Committee, and it's submitted here too. I think it's also been provided to LAFD. I just want to acknowledge that and make sure that's part of our record. I do want to say before we get to questions that we heard this item in Triple T. Thank you very much, Madam Chair. And the action in Triple T was to reject the report, not because the recommendations of the 2 positions and the proposal for additional legislation were insufficient, but I had a number of questions, and I think others had a number of questions, and it struck me as unclear as to what the path forward was. I just wanted to ask, what is I read something about the frequency of reports, but I just want to get on the record. Of inspections, what's the frequency of full inspections at Rancho LPG?
Great question. I appreciate it. I'm going to have return it over to our hazmat supervisor, Min Lee.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. The frequency of inspection for the CalARP program is every 3 years.
Every 3 years?
Yes, with a compliant audit every 1.5 years. For the hazardous material business plan program, it's also every 3 years.
It's just so hard to hear, and it's not your fault. It's the fault of this room.
It's every 3 years for the hazardous material business plan program as well.
Thank you. So inspections are every 3 years. Are there inspections in between those 3 years for any specific issues?
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, the district inspector completes the inspection on an annual basis.
So the district inspector does an annual basis. So basically the hazardous materials or Coupa inspections are every 3 years, and then basically the harbor or local inspections are every year?
That's correct. We work with the Coupa unit on many facilities that require both Coupa and the district or fire prevention bureau inspector.
Thank you. Has there been a history or is there a record of violations? We went over this question, and I apologize that I'm asking questions that we asked in the last committee, but I appreciate the significance of this showing, and so want to ask again, have there been violations in either the 3-year Coupa inspections or the annual inspections?
I just wanted to answer your last questions. I think maybe you didn't hear. We also, in the COWAR program, we also do compliance audit every 1.5 years.
Every 1.5 year in the power program.
The COWAR program. Yeah, the
Oh.
California Accidental
In the Cal,
Police
okay,
Prevention.
got it,
Yeah.
got it.
Um,
The record of violations?
As far as the last inspection, there was a minor and a class 2 violation that they corrected immediately, and it was related to paperwork operation procedures.
Paperwork operation procedures?
Yes, that needed to update.
And over the course of time, would we say that there have been what we heard last time was there have been a number of violations, but they all were minor. And I was asking questions, when do minor violations cumulatively roll up to a major problem, especially for an old facility built in 1973?
Minor violations need to be corrected within 30 days. Usually these facilities correct the violation pretty much the same day, if not the next day or next week. That doesn't really usually go over 30 days. If they do go over 30 days, it becomes a class 2 violation. We escalate it. And after that, we give them a time frame, usually another 30 days. And if they do not correct it, it becomes a class 1 violation. Once it gets to class 1 violation, we would issue what we call an administrative enforcement order, where they would come into our office and it becomes a fine, and we have a discussion about compliance, and just that telling them that they need to complete their correct the violations and issue the fine. If there's repeated class 1 violation, it might become a civil or criminal.
Right.
Yeah.
May I proceed? Is there a record of violations over time, over 52 years? Does LAFD or the city anywhere maintain a record of violations over time?
In our annuals, the documents that I have here today, the last 5 years, there's been no violations.
Okay, but we do maintain a record of violations. And we have the 3-year inspections, and we have the 1-year inspections, and we have the 1.5-year inspections. Is there a record for each and every inspection of any potential violations?
I could say on the Coupa side that yes, we have a record going back. We got to look through our archive files, and we can find those. So we have records going back to the 30s, for example.
Yeah.
Now, whether they're all there, that's another thing. There's a project a while back where they scanned everything and put it in there. And then over probably the last 10 years, everything's digital. So,
Do we have any facilities, any comparable facilities anywhere in, whether it's for Coupa citywide or in the harbor area, do we have any comparable facilities that you inspect that are 1973 tanks that have the capacity for 25 million gallons and contain butane, or are designed or intended for butane? Is there anything like this anywhere else?
we have other large butane tanks. I'm going to say that this is probably the largest, but there are large butane tanks and other facilities that I would say are equally dangerous. Maybe not butane, just different materials, right? I mean, but butane, that's the largest.
So this is the largest butane tank combination in your jurisdiction?
Storage-wise, yes.
Do you have any that are older than 1973?
Have to do research on that and get back to you. That would.
Do you expect, just off the top of your head, do you expect that you have any that are older than 1973?
It's difficult for me to say because some of our tanks go back for oil and things like that go back 100 years. So it's really difficult. So I really can't answer that question without doing some research.
Well, that might be something that we have come back. Do you have any that have similar spacing from schools and residential. This is, I would say, in my estimation, since I drive by it every day, it's about 100 yards, maybe less, maybe more, I don't know, about 100 yards from schools and residential. Do you have anything close to 25 million gallons of butane, 52 years old, sorry, within 100 yards of schools and residential, anywhere in your jurisdiction?
Again, that's going to be a difficult one to say. We could definitely get that answer to you for sure. I would just want to pull them up. On
Difficult to
GIS
say off the top of your head. It
measure
would be
now.
difficult. It would be simple to measure that, though, right?
Yeah, in front of a computer with GIS software, I'd be able to measure that for sure.
Right.
Yes, sir.
So let me ask this question. It's kind of related to our general plan. We have a safety element of our general plan, and the safety element includes hazardous mitigation sub-plan, essentially. Correct? Correct or not correct? Am I asking the wrong people? So in our city planning, in our general plan, we have a safety plan, and the safety plan has a hazardous mitigation sub-plan. You're not familiar with that?
Speaking of the area plan, sir? The City of Los Angeles area plan?
Yeah. So I might be asking the wrong folks, but in our general plan for the City of Los Angeles, we have hazardous mitigation sub-plan. And I just want to know where this, and maybe this is something that we have to research and come back. How is this 25 million gallons of butane, 52-year-old tanks, 100 yards from residential properties and schools, how is it dealt with in our hazardous mitigation sub-plan within the general plan of the City of Los Angeles? It seems to be a very, very, very unique risk. Maybe the most unique risk in California. I just want to know how we deal with it.
It's a fair question, sir. I think we need to do some research on that. Just make
Yeah.
sure, because we
Fair.
have something called an area plan, and we're just trying to kind of put it together and make sure we're talking about the same thing.
Yeah,
We'll follow
that's
up on
fair.
that for sure.
And then I will ask another question that could not have come up at Triple T and can only come up now, sadly. After the fires, we are all now evaluating all of our emergency plans and all of our risks. Is there any movement by LAFD or any part of the city to look at this very unique risk? Again, old tanks in proximity of residential, butane, 25 million gallons. Do we have any current effort post-fire to evaluate the risks and the way to mitigate the risks at this facility?
Yes, sir. Yeah, thank you for the question. I think that's going to be something I need to follow up with our planning section as well. For something that large scale in the deployment model, that's something that we'll have to absolutely follow up with them.
Yeah. Okay. I think what you said, that it was really hard to hear you.
Oh, sorry. Yes, sir. So we'll have to follow up with our planning section and determine what if risk assessment for moving forward, or if we are doing more of a deployment model study in a sense. That information we do not have at this point.
Yeah.
We just are carrying out our daily responsibilities.
So, Mr. Chair or members, my sense is that through very genuine effort, LAFD has given us this report that came before the fires that told us that that 2 positions needed to be unfrozen, and that we needed some legislative activity. At the committee meeting before, we rejected that recommendation, not because it's a bad recommendation, but because a number of questions were left unanswered. And I think, in fairness to our leaders here, we have a set of questions that are maybe a little more unique, a little different because of the fires. I would very much like to get back answers to all of those questions, and if we could hold it here and have all of that come back. And it really, really focuses on a comprehensive report on the violations and the fixes to the violations, particularly looking at that issue as to whether or not any of it had to go to administrative enforcement or criminal enforcement. Terribly important, given we have to evaluate the good faith of this operator. and I'm sure they're listening somewhere, by the way, so I hope they heard that. And to look at whether or not this property is unique, given the proximity to residential and schools and retail, by the way, also, and athletic fields, and the age of the property, and the use of the property, and the volume of the property. I think this might be unique anywhere in the United States. And whether or not we are underway or have a comprehensive plan for risk mitigation given all of those components, and whether that's made it into our general plan or is going to make it into our general plan, because I think some elements of the general safety subplan are still underway, which is fair. But I want to see if we have answers to all of that, because this thing is not getting any younger. Oh, and there was another question that came up. I apologize, Mr. Chair. Another question that came up. One of the things we heard at the TTT committee was that this project was in compliance with all regulations. And as my background in land use and government practice, that seemed absolutely implausible that it would be in compliance with all current regulations. It's more likely that we would deem it in compliance, grandfathered in compliance, as a legal non-conforming for standards. And I'd really like to know whether or not it's legal, but non-conforming for standards, or whether in fact it is up to the 2025 codes in all instances.
Yes, sir. And to kind of,
It makes a big difference on its useful life and its value.
yes, sir. Just real quick to expand on that, based on our knowledge, and we can obviously do some more research in that realm, but the regulatory enforcement that we do for the state and that the hazmat supervisor is speaking of, that's where that violation comes into play. We're looking at in compliance and through the state. And then for the fire code, those that are regulated by the fire code were in compliance. So no egregious violations, nothing came up from that aspect. So whether that be another agency or department, I'm not sure if we'd be able to point that direction, but
Yes, sir.
from under our representation, the sense of what we enforce for the fire department, that would fall under us. And so at this point, there hasn't been anything where it's they're not within compliance. They're within all the compliances that meet for our regulatory standards.
And again,
We'll
I'll come back to
absolutely
that.
follow
I'll come back to that issue because it makes a big difference for me as to whether it's legal non-conforming or whether it's complies with the current codes, because it goes to the amortization. I would like to take it out of existence. And
Yes,
again, I'm sure they're listening somewhere out there. I'd like to take this use out of existence, and it makes a big difference on the value and how long they can stay in existence, whether they are legal non-conforming or up to code by 2025 standards.
Yes, sir.
That's all I have, sir.
All right, so Councilor Kosker, sounds like you want to keep this in our committee with the information that he requested. We'll schedule it at your request. And do we need to hold a vote on this, Madam Clerk, if we're holding in committee? Okay, if you can call the roll on that.
Councilmember Lee.
Aye.
Councilmember Price. Councilmember McCosker.
Yes.
Councilmember Soto Martinez.
Yes.
Councilmember Park.
Yes.
5 ayes. This item will be scheduled for a later date.
Okay, Mr. Kosker?
I just want to thank you all for your attendance and for your dedicated, focus on this. I really, really, really appreciate it. If you sense any agitation, it goes to the use, it goes to the operator, it doesn't go to the women and men of the LAFD. I appreciate everything you're doing.
Thank you, sir. Thanks for the opportunity for today. Appreciate it.
All right, thank you very much. Are there any other items to consider? Madam
The
Clerk?
desk is clear.
All right, then we are adjourned.